Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we upgrade ourselves to 4K, 720p in handheld mode, and our skin looks radiant. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including more persistent rumors about a Switch Pro. And then on Thursday, we are going to be coming up with games that deserve the Pokemon Snap treatment. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You know how I've been talking about my husband and I have been watching a lot of The Amazing Race?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we took a one-season break from The Amazing Race to pivot to a show on Amazon called The Pack, which is The Amazing Race with dogs. It's a person and a dog.
What?
Yeah, and it's hosted by Lindsey Vonn. And in the beginning, I was very skeptical. We ended up enjoying it, but I was very skeptical because, on The Amazing
They're not like sled dogs, right? They're not like work
they're just
animals.
okay, right. They're just like normal, people's dogs. And on The Amazing Race, part of you can make people do anything because people have agency to quit if they want to. So they treat those people like garbage, essentially, right? They're sleeping on the streets in front of bus stops. They're just doing what they have to do.
You don't want to see a dog do that, right?
You cannot do that with dogs. And so they every episode they are very clear, we're checking the dog's heart rates. We want to make sure these dogs are happy and fine. But the thing about it is the challenges then cannot be dog dependent. They have to be dog adjacent because because you can't be you and your dog have to cross this wobbly bridge because if the dog doesn't want to go across, you have to have an alternative that they can pivot to. But that also sometimes the things they're doing are not.
So the dogs aren't contestants really. They're just they're set dressing.
They do have to contribute in ways, and sometimes that way is just wow, it's really annoying to try to do this task when a dog is here. Right. But other times they're we are going to zip line with our dogs, and watching people zip line is not that interesting. Watching people with dogs zip line even
Sounds
less
great.
interesting. No, because you're because the dogs are the dogs show no emotion. What is a dog thinking? And the people the whole time are my dog is loving this. I never thought I'd be able to explore Paris with my dog. And it's but what is your dog thinking of all of this? I feel they're not necessarily soaking up the sights.
I mean, what are dogs thinking of anything, right? I mean, the dog is just enjoying that much attention and time together,
yeah,
right?
that's probably true. That's probably very true. But anyways, we ended up liking it for all these
Oh, well,
complaints.
good. Speaking of anyways, we ended up liking it. My copy of Sonic Forces, would you like to borrow it? You can. It's my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. All you gotta do is write to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And give us a mailing address so I can send you my copy. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. You might run into my copy of Untitled Goose Game. It's in there. It's a spoiler. It'll mess up your plans unless your plans all along were to borrow my copy of Untitled Goose Game. Either way, you got to send it back. You can't. The goose doesn't mess up the program that much, right? But other than that, there are no rules.
The other thing we're doing is we're giving away a copy of Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore Edition for the Nintendo Switch. It is a code for the US eShop. If you're interested in playing, you want to play, and you and I can talk about this game because I have played it and I loved it, and I would love somebody to experience it as well. If you're interested in winning that code, all you got to do is write into us.
Just send an email to Nintendo Cartridge Society at
gmail.com. And in the subject line of the email, put Sharp FE, that is the sharp sign, and then FE. In the body of your email, tell us who your Mirage would be. A Mirage, again, is kind of your avatar in battle or somebody who imbues you with power. And do that by March 15th, which is not that long
from coming
now.
Up. It's next week, man. This is one of those deadlines that has just come up on us.
And we are going to be taking all of the entries, and we will randomly be selecting a winner. So get that in by March 15th if you are interested in playing this game, which you should be because it is wild, but also really fun.
Yes, and the quality of your writing about who your Mirage is will have no bearing on your ability to get this copy or get this code for Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore. I enjoy reading them, so don't skimp on that. It's something that I enjoy. Like I'm allowed to enjoy something, right?
Yeah, I think maybe we'll share some of the entries and talk
Yeah.
about who our own Mirages would be on the episode where we pick that.
Which again I think will probably just be next week. Mark, speaking of weeks and shows from different weeks, that was a bad transition. I apologize. We got we got an email from Carter. Carter wrote about our Thursday episode, which again Thursday's episode was our Mario Vision episode where we pitched TV shows from various decades based on Nintendo properties. Carter writes, "Dear Patrick and Mark, first off, I loved your episode this Thursday, but your Wario and Waluigi show idea reminded me of a weird YouTube series from 2008 called Stupid Mario Bros. By a guy named Rich Alvarez." Mark, I'm pausing there to ask you, are you familiar with Stupid Mario Bros?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so Carter goes on to explain. He says, "The early part of the show features the Mario Bros sitting on their couch in the real world, cracking jokes and playing Brawl. They are they are eventually found by Wario, who attempts to drag them back to the Mushroom Kingdom by the most petty means possible. The show shifts back and forth between an ongoing, incredibly cheesy plot featuring acceptably choreographed lightsaber fights and a remarkably well written remarkably well written comedy, remarkable for amateur YouTube series in 2008. Anyway." Well, it starts out kind of slow and awkward. It does get better, and the characters get more and more out there. It even has the Mario Brothers starting a band with the Wario Brothers, which breaks up over their opinions on the Golden Compass. So that's good.
Wow, this is a real snapshot.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. This is a YouTube series that could only exist in 2008. Carter says, "Despite that, I still want to see that Beavis and Butthead type show because the footage of Charles Martinet in the recording studio would be priceless. Thanks, gents." Carter. Carter, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I was also not familiar with Stupid Mario Bros. It is like just, two guys dressed in Mario and Luigi costumes.
I was wondering.
Yeah. This would need to be the real Wario and Waluigi for the Beavis and Butthead style show. Not animated, not dudes in costumes, the real Wario and the real Waluigi.
Also, Carter, you meant there was a glancing mention of lightsaber battles. Like, this is something that I should just regularly anticipate to happen in my Mario themed TV shows. I have to admit, I was shocked. I was not seeing that coming.
I mean, I think this is one of those fast and loose with the. I mean, the Mario Brothers aren't reading the Golden Compass series either, right?
Yeah. That's a really fair point. That's completely
good. This is
fair.
good silliness. Yeah. All right, Mark. Let's get into what we've been playing. So I've been playing a lot of the same games as always. I'm just gonna quick run them down. Animal Crossing New Horizons. I continue to love the Mario items. Going in every day, buying a bunch of Mario stuff. Now my villager is dressed like Luigi, and it's wonderful.
You got those pipes?
Oh yeah. Whoa, we got those pipes.
And villagers able to take the pipes, not able to take the pipes.
Unclear at this time. Look, because the old saying goes, you can lead a villager to a pipe, but you cannot make them go in it.
Absolutely.
But it's great. I moved my house from a nice open patch of grass into the city area so that we can just set up a Mario park, which is good because we will find out later that the Orlando Mario Park was delayed for another couple of years. But so I'm setting up my own park with thwomps and question blocks, and it's gonna be great. I'm enjoying the heck out of those. But seriously, you got to get in every day and place orders for Mario stuff if you want to have enough to do anything.
And your house was in the way of like the perfect location for Mario Park, so that's why you moved it.
Yeah. And also like, I've been playing the game for like a year now. I wanted to shake it up a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, totally.
Sarah also has a weird aversion to like changing anything on the island, which I don't understand. Like my whole thing was like, I'm gonna sculpt this island exactly how I want it. And then like she'll be complaining about a river or something, and I'm just like, well, you can move it, and she's like, no. So it falls to me. I also jumped into Tetris 99 this weekend. Mark, did you jump into Tetris 99 and get
Yeah,
the Bowser's Fury theme?
I did, and I'm curious. I have not played Bowser's Fury yet. Is the music from the theme featured in Bowser's Fury? Because it's like some really rockin' arrangements of
Yeah, I guess
Mario music.
one thing I didn't really talk about when we were talking about Bowser's Fury on the show, is that when Bowser is around, like the music is like super like rock, and there's like kind of screamy, growly voices like, um, and it's super cool to hear them in Tetris 99. I was very proud of myself. I did the play one match, win it, get the theme,
Ooh,
and then
nice.
turn it off. That always feels like a nice little flex. Um, so I played that this weekend. And then since Sarah has been going through Super Mario 3D World, and I've been sort of playing along with her, I got a little bit jealous of her like solo Super Mario 3D World time and started my own solo game. So I've been playing that a lot as well. And I will maybe hold any like more conversation about Super Mario 3D World until you are playing it, Mark. But yeah, I absolutely love that game. And then I went back into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But maybe we'll talk more about that when we get down to the most recent news about the game.
Okay, yeah. So I finished Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Oh man, Tokyo
This,
Mirage
yep.
Sessions. I feel like we're gonna say it precious few times more on this show, so I got to get it right.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
bring up the percentage of right pronunciations to wrong pronunciations.
yeah. And I really loved it. So I did all of the character side stories. And like that was like really fun. The story itself, like at the end, is more like directly involved with Fire Emblem. Um, but
Interesting.
not like obviously we've talked about before. I am not like huge into Fire Emblem lore, but even I'm like okay, yeah, like I get the connection. It's very apparent. But yeah, the game is just fun. It's kind of like a slow burn in the beginning, so I feel like with like a lot of RPGs, the first like this is where I am with Dragon Quest 11S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch, which I still need to get into. And I actually think that playing this game made me more excited to get into it because when I just played like the first hour of Dragon Quest, and it's like that's nothing, right? But you kind
Oh
of
yeah, I mean that first hour you're just like going to the top of a mountain with like your childhood friend.
yeah,
And like
exactly.
yeah, it's really slow paced, really pointless.
And
Yeah.
with like any RPG, the first
Hmm.
hour is like like how can you even draw any conclusions? And so like and you know that intellectually, but this game really reminded me of it because the first few hours of Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I'm like, the dialogue is bad, like it's kind of cheap,
Yeah.
like why is this fun? And then by the end, you feel like it's super cool. The characters are really fun, and you're like, ah, right, that's why RPGs are awesome. And so it made me more excited to get back into Dragon Quest at some point because it's like, yeah, I played it for like an hour, and like,
Yes.
how is that even like? How can I? Yeah, so I know that if I put in the time to Dragon Quest, I'm confident I will end up loving it. But I really liked Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I
Yeah, you
yeah,
did
I
it.
and I would I really recommend it. Like give it a few hours, but I thought it was super fun.
Now, Mark, I know you are giving away a digital code, but you also then have this physical copy. Let me ask you this: can I borrow that
No,
physical
here's the
copy?
thing. The one I played is also digital. I have two digital copies.
All right, never mind then.
um but I would love for you to experience somehow. But yeah, I think you would like it. I really do think you would like
Is
it.
it too late for me to enter our own contest?
I mean, I think like I know that this is like not like an official licensed sweepstakes, but I feel like
Yeah.
it is a line that even we cannot cross.
Okay, well, I'm gonna send us an email and we'll see what happens.
And so I also started playing Gnosia, which I picked up last week. I'm maybe like 20 loops or 25 loops in, like somewhere in
Oh
there.
wow!
And each loop, it varies a little bit, but I would say they're about maybe like 15 minutes, but it's like very addicting.
And you're 20 of them in?
I think so. I mean,
That sounds like you've played a lot, Mark.
the early ones are like really short because they're like
Okay.
tutorials. I do think I've played maybe about 2 hours in total, but it's I'm really enjoying it. It's $25 on the eShop, and it's basically like a one player version of like Mafia or Werewolf or one of those games where you're trying to figure out like who's telling the truth, who's lying, and then at the end of every round, like somebody dies, and then so it's like okay, the people who are Genosian, like they are killing people every round, and you're trying to figure out like who's telling the truth, who's Genosian, who is human, who's maybe like a follower of Genosians but is not Genosian, so they're just trying to like mix things up. The characters are really interesting. Like it's fun. The mystery, like the grander mystery that I'm just barely getting into that is unfolding, is interesting. The art is cool. The music is cool. The one thing I'm not entirely clear on, and is that I can't tell because I think all of every like round that you do or every like loop is randomly generated. And so what I can't tell is if like it is actually possible to logic out things necessarily in like that's happening in a loop.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
because the AI or like the other characters, they are accusing each other, they're backing each other up, they're accusing you, right? Like all of that is going on, and I don't know if there's like a true internal logic to each round where it's like, well, if I go back and look through the chat log, like am I actually able to like puzzle it out because this person didn't like
Right.
accuse this person and then these two people denied it and like all that kind of stuff. Like I don't entirely know. I kind of think it's not necessarily possible, but but also the way that you unlock like new information, I think you have to lose. So like losing isn't necessarily bad because even if you win, you're just going to start all over again. You're just going to do another loop. So I think
Right.
in order to see the whole story, you have to like there are times you're going to have to lose, or you are going to be Genosian or like all that kind of stuff. It's really fun. I've liked it a lot.
That's great. And that was one that just came out last week. So it's cool to like find a new or new to you at any rate game and like dig in and actually get rewarded for that.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, so those are the games that we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Today, Tuesday, March 9th, Apex Legends is released on the Switch eShop.
Now, this is interesting, right? This is one that was announced a while back without like a release date coming to Switch. And what was it just as of the most recent Nintendo Direct that we got this date, or I feel like it was pretty recent.
Yeah, I think it was right around there. I think it's free to play, right? Apex Legends is free to play. It's like a battle royale.
No, it is more like a hero shooter.
Oh, okay.
Like
okay.
Overwatch style.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just looked it up and it is 25 gigs to download. So
Ooh.
I don't know that I will download it just to check it out. But I believe it has like cross saves, and so if you've been playing on other platforms and all that kind of stuff, your progress carries over here. So yeah,
cross save and cross play, and the game has a good reputation on other platforms. So I am kind of interested in checking it out. But it's also one of those things where I'm like, well, why would I do that on Switch? Why wouldn't I do it on like a different platform? But the fact that it is available there, if I can clear some space off my Switch, I'll probably download it, play a couple rounds, and then get rid of it.
And then on Friday, March 12th, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, is released for Switch as well. So this is another one of those Activision ports where it had come out on other platforms previously and is now making its way to Switch.
Mark, where do you stand on Crash Bandicoot? Is that something you're interested in or not at all?
Yeah, I'm pretty, I don't really feel anything about Crash Bandicoot. I think I had one of the later games that came to Nintendo 64. So it possibly was one that after Naughty Dog had moved on from it. But
there was a Nintendo 64 Crash Bandicoot game?
Yeah. And so
wow.
Yeah, and so I know we had that one or rented it or whatever, and I just never got into it. I just never got into the series, and so I don't really feel anything about Crash Bandicoot. How about you?
I mean, I also don't really feel anything about it. The most I've ever played Crash Bandicoot is the little bit that they make you play in Uncharted 4. There's a little bit where Nate and Elena play. Wait, is that her name? His wife. I think her name is Elena. I think that's right. I'm gonna say that's right. They play Crash Bandicoot against each other, and that is the most that I've played any of these games. I don't know. I don't find him aesthetically pleasing. Like I find him he looks like Crash. I'm saying here.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like if Banjo from Banjo-Kazooie was like a Ninja Turtle, right?
Yeah, totally. He looks like Banjo who's been poochied up, like he's been rostified.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he's so poochy. And then I also wanted to just draw attention to the fact that since we are coming up on Mario Day, March 10th, Nintendo is putting some Mario games on sale for 35% off on the eShop through the end of the week, so through March 13th. So that's one of those act fast kind of sales. Luigi's Mansion 3, Mario Tennis Aces, Super Mario Maker 2, and Super Mario Party are all $38.99, which is a good price for all those games. I think probably Luigi's Mansion is the best deal among them. How do you feel about that, Mark? Do you think another one is
Luigi's Mansion 3, and then also Super Mario Maker 2. Again, I really liked the single player story mode type thing. I thought that was a lot of fun. So, and for $40, I think that's a great deal, especially if you are more interested in that part than the builder tools.
Right. And then also, again, just as always, whenever there is a kind of sale or promotion for Super Mario Party, just a word of warning that if you do not have people in your house to play the game with, it is not an effective online, internet-enabled multiplayer game, and it is bad to play by yourself. And also, I don't even know how you would play it on the Switch Lite unless you had other Joy-Cons in addition to
I think
the system itself.
I think you'd have to.
So as always, buyer beware on Super Mario Party. Can be super fun if you have four people and 4 Joy-Cons. You can't use Pro controllers with it. So just if you're interested in Super Mario Party, make sure you know what you're getting. All right, Mark, let's close out the new releases. That brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. We have a suggestion from our 433 episode, suggested by Patrick. Patrick writes, I would like to hear you talk about your favorite horror media, books, comics, movies, etc. Mark, how are you with horror media? You a big horror guy?
I'm not really a big horror guy. I like suspenseful things. but
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to be startled, and I don't like gore.
Sure. Gore is tough. Are there? Because I feel like I'm in a similar boat. There are some horror movies that I do like, but I find that for me, horror needs to be cut with another genre for me to like
Mm.
really get into it. Like sci-fi horror, I'm into it. Comedy horror, I love the Scream movies. All four of them. I think all four Scream movies are great. Um, Especially the first and the fourth are great
Oh,
movies.
really? The fourth one?
The fourth is, I mean, they're all super self-aware and whatever, but like the fourth came around at a time when, uh, like it sort of predicts the like Force Awakens
Mm-hmm.
of like
Mm-hmm.
franchises like coming back. And you know some of that was already happening with like Crystal Skull and you know other stuff like that. But yeah, I mean it's a super smart look at like franchise movie making. That also is like funny and has like some grotesque kills in it.
Yeah, I really like growing up I watched a lot of like Alfred Hitchcock movies and
Yeah.
like rarely do those like even like cross with like horror, but I really like suspenseful films. One of a horror movie that I really like that sticks in my mind that I didn't see until I was maybe like 25 or something is the original Halloween.
Yeah.
And
It's good.
it's really good, and it was really interesting watching it because you know like you see it was like, oh, this is the genesis of all of these like horror tropes.
Yeah.
And it still like holds up. I mean, talking about John Carpenter, like The Thing is another like
Oh, the
horror
thing
movie
is
that I like
yeah. Mhm.
really like. I guess when I think of horror that I'm like, no, like absolutely not, is like the torture porn of like the early
Yeah.
2000s like
Your
never
Saws, your
appeals to me.
Hostels, yeah.
Yeah. Like Eli Roth is not a director that I am interested in like watching his filmography.
Okay, but have you ever seen Cabin Fever? Because Cabin
No, I've
Fever,
never seen Cabin Fever.
oh man, Cabin Fever. Are you familiar with the premise?
No, I'm not.
So it's that people are like camping, and there's a flesh-eating virus, and like that's basically it. Is like they find themselves
Oh,
subjected
okay.
to a flesh-eating virus. And that is among the like lower production value Eli Roth movies. That is like very funny in addition to being like an effective gross out horror, and it's
Oh,
less
interesting.
like there's no malicious force behind it, right? Like it's just there's a flesh-eating like bacteria that's like that people
Right.
are succumbing to that. Um, so yeah, it feels less like mean and less like sadistic, even though like the characters are still being tortured, basically, just you know, with no face behind it. I gotta say, I also have a soft spot for zombie stuff. Um, but I feel like most of that for me is like video game related, right? Like, um, I like the Resident Evil games, obviously. So do you. Dead Rising is one of my favorite games on the original Xbox. Um, so yeah, I think like zombie stuff also has a very like important place for me.
What about books? Have you ever read like were you ever like into Stephen King or anything like that?
No, what about you? Are you a Stephen King guy?
No, I had a friend in high school who was really into it, and so I read like a few of them, like The Shining and stuff. I always feel like for me, Stephen King has great like the ideas that he has are so interesting, but
Hmm.
have never like enjoyed his prose or like the execution. But I guess we'll never know.
We will never know. I read most of The Stand at one point. While I was living in Hawaii, I was reading The Stand on a beach. All right, we were accompanied today by the GVSU New Music Ensemble, as with guest violinist Todd Reynolds. Mark, let's get into the news.
Okay, stop me if you've heard this one before. But there are rumors of a Switch Pro revision, or in quotes Switch Pro, new like upgraded Switch coming sometime soon.
Yeah, Mark, I'll stop you because I've heard this one before. And before we go any further, I just want it out there on the record again. Patrick is telling you, Nintendo's never going to sell you a system called the Switch Pro. They're never going to
That's
do
right.
it.
Okay, so where is this coming from? Well, Bloomberg is reporting that Nintendo is planning to release Switch models with a bigger i.e., 7-inch, 720p touchscreen. But it is going to be provided by Samsung, and it is going to be an OLED display instead of the LCD display that the current Switch model has.
Yes.
Bloomberg's sources say that the screens are scheduled to be shipped to the assemblers around July. And so the speculation based on that is that like the system would launch later this year, maybe in like the September timeframe.
Yeah, and part of the sort of like backing, like support for this, is that the price of these screens is falling because Samsung has too many or made too many without like having buyers for them already set. Um, which is this how technology works? Is someone's like, oh, we just got too many screens. Who's gonna buy all our screens? Nintendo's like, yeah, we could do it, guys. Can we use these screens? And they're like, yeah, we could use these screens.
I actually I feel like I have vague recollections of that being like part of the reason why Nintendo went with the silicon that it has in the Switch is because Nvidia or Nvidia, it's Nvidia, right? That
Yeah,
makes
that's right.
the chip, like that they did have a surplus of them. I feel like Nintendo is just like bargain hunters, right? They're going to estate
Yeah,
sales. They're like, how many LCD screens can I get for super cheap?
yeah, man, they're making money on the buy. Like, I get it.
Um, so at 7 inches, the Switch itself wouldn't have to be any bigger. They would just basically take the bezel or they would remove the bezel. And so like you could have a 7-inch screen on the same basic size as the current model.
Which means no that current Joy Cons would at least theoretically fit on the side of the screen. Like there would be no reason to make everyone throw out their existing Joy-Con, except for the fact that most of them are experiencing Joy-Con drift anyway. So it might be time for a Joy-Con revision as it is.
And the Joy-Con and the dock, presumably, like
Yeah.
presumably could use the dock as well. So that's the part where like Bloomberg reporting is saying this is true. And then there's analyst speculation from Bloomberg Intelligence, which I
This
don't
is
know
a,
what
a
that
great
means.
it's a great little like breakout in the Bloomberg article where it's just like set aside text like pulled out of the article and it says right above it Bloomberg Intelligence.
So this is analyst speculation essentially, and it says, "quote The release of a more premium version of Nintendo Switch console with an OLED display and support for 4K graphics for the holiday 2021 selling season could drive the company's sales above consensus for the fiscal year ending March 2022 and extend the life cycle of the Switch platform for many more years." So the 4K graphics is like the other big part of this. The speculation slash, I guess, reporting is that it would upscale to 4K. It wouldn't necessarily be native 4K, but that it would be something that this newer Switch would be able to output when docked.
I haven't yeah, I haven't seen any like super compelling evidence for the 4K upscaling, other than there was a report a couple months ago, sometime last year, that Nintendo was like reaching out to their development teams and saying to like have their games ready to be upscaled to 4K. So like it's but even that reporting is like in rumorsville, right? Like no, there have been no like official statements on that really.
Well, yeah, but I think like presumably the new dev kits for this more
Hmm.
powerful Switch have been released, so like some of them are out in the wild, and then also apparently it is something that is just like kind of inherited in Nvidia's updated like X1 Tegra chips, or I'm sure I'm getting that wrong, but whatever it is that the Switch is running on, apparently like it Nvidia's next level chip, just like next evolution of that chip, just like supports it out of the box. So um I think it all makes sense. I mean, I feel like we've been hearing these rumors since essentially
Right.
2019.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, and we are starting to get to the point where like what comes next, be it a Switch revision or like just like literally what comes next, is something that we should start to see, right? Like a Nintendo console life cycle. The Switch has been around for 4 years now, right? And a Nintendo console's life cycle is about 5 to 6 years, right? So by this point in the Wii U's life cycle, we knew that the Switch was coming, or maybe just a couple months from now. Um, and obviously the Wii U is a particularly short-lived system, but like there's only a couple years between the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64 and the Nintendo 64 to the GameCube. So like it is time that we start like actually finding out about something, even if it's just like a half step.
Yeah, I mean, that's so wild when you think about it because
I know.
The Switch very, and Nintendo has been saying it almost from the very beginning that they intend for the Switch life cycle to be longer than, like the normal system. And I think through their own planning and then also just kind of by happenstance with the explosion in gaming that that's happened around the pandemic, like I feel like it is crazy to think that the Switch is now in the part of its life cycle where the Wii was when it really began to like run out of gas, where you were
Yeah.
like checking your watch, being like, is the Wii going to get anything? Like Operation Rainfall started becoming a thing, right? Where it was just like,
Yeah.
where the Switch feels like it is, I don't even know if it's at its peak, right? It feels like everything is still going for the Switch. Where this, I think you mentioned it one of the previous times where we've talked about Switch revision, where it's like Nintendo is having a difficult time maintaining stock of the current version
Yeah.
of like that isn't a Nintendo Lite, just like the current like normal version. So to introduce this like premium one almost feels crazy because it's like they can barely keep up with demand for the current version.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which is one point, but also like there are enough of them in the wild that if they release like a more premium version, um, then there are going to be a ton of secondhand Switches on the market after that, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many like I will absolutely trade in my Switch to get like the new version of it, right? Um, and then those will go into like there will be so many Switches in the wild if there's an upgrade of any kind. But one thing that I do think is important to think about, I've seen a lot of speculation about the new Switch or the Switch Pro, which it will not be called, being tied to the release of like Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 or to like the Pokemon Legends game. And like those may be coincidences, they may happen at the same time, but there's no way that they'll be exclusive to the new version of the Switch. There are just too many Switches in the wild right now, especially for Pokemon, right? Like Pokemon never leads on hardware. Pokemon always follows reluctantly a year into it, you know? Um, but like even Zelda, like you will be able to play Breath of the Wild 2 on your current model Switch. Like I guarantee that.
Yeah. When they revealed the new 3DS,
Yeah.
I feel like it did have Xenoblade Chronicles as like an exclusive game, but we didn't really see many more exclusives after that. I feel like if they intend to, it'll be interesting to see what they intend to do. Like, do they
Yeah.
intend to create like a new Switch where it just kind of like replaces the existing Switch model, or is it a premium one and you have like three different tiers of Switch? Because I my read on the situation right now is like I don't think you need a compelling reason to get people to upgrade necessarily. Like I
Yeah.
think enough people will do it for the bigger screen, for like the 4K graphics, for the people who care about that. And then for
Yeah.
everybody else, if you maintain the current price, then it's just like, well, we want to switch anyways, and this is like the available Switch, like Apple does with like iPads basically. It's like you want an
Yeah.
iPad Air. It's like, well, this is like the newest one, and it's essentially the same price as the old one. And so
Totally. Yeah.
you just go in and you're like, I just want the newest one. Um,
Yeah.
so
I mean
I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be exclusives.
yeah. Yeah, it would make sense to me if they did if that this wouldn't be like a premium model Switch. Like that's not a premium model doesn't feel like a very Nintendo move to me. But just like slowly phasing out what the phasing out the original flavor Switch, which they've already done, right? Like we're already on version 2 of the Switch. And like the version 1, the version 1 not in the red box doesn't exist anymore as far as like a new retail item, right? And I think that'll just be the case with this new thing. Um, and I absolutely think they'll go with either call it new Nintendo Switch or I've seen a lot of Super Nintendo Switch. That doesn't feel totally right to me. Just because you had to put the Super before the Nintendo to make it work.
Right.
I love Switch Advance. That
But yeah, but like
yeah.
all of those like Switch Advance or like Super Nintendo Switch, all of that feels to me like a new console, and I don't think this is going to be
Yeah.
positioned as a new console. I think it's going to be kind of like the PlayStation 4 Pro, although it definitely will not be called that. Like I don't think they're going. I think it's a very
that's an interesting comparison because like obviously the Game Boy Advance is a different system, but like it perfectly plays all your Game Boy games.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But I feel like, I guess, yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. I feel like at the time it was like this big break where it was like, like we are putting away the Game Boy and we were moving on to the Game Boy Advance. Where in my head, this is going to be like more of a new Nintendo 3DS or really like a PlayStation 4 Pro where it's like, like it's a little more powerful and it can play the games with like a better frame rate and a better resolution, but it's still playing the games that you can play anywhere else.
It's like a Game Boy Color is really maybe the So that's speculation I've not seen. The Nintendo Switch Color.
I would love to see that. I would love to see a Nintendo Switch Micro at some point where we're like doing it, it's like 2 inches.
Tiny, yeah.
You're taking off the little Joy-Con, like the size of Pez, just like, little Pez candy.
I love it.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is one of those like where there's smoke, there's fire at this point, and there feels like there's been smoke for 2.5 years. So
yeah.
I'm not setting my watch to it, but do I think it's going to happen at some point? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and once I feel like we will find out more about it. I mean, first of all, we got to get out of this this fiscal year first. But that's only a couple weeks away. But I think like once we clear the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series like launch windows, which I don't know how long is a launch window for a system? Less than a year, 9 months, a year? I don't know.
Yeah, I would say less than a year, but like up to like 9-10 months. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I would say we find out about this August or September, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when it actually comes out. Maybe for like the 5-ish year anniversary of
this
the
is
Switch.
How I mean, I've talked in the past how I bought, and I ended up buying like 5 or 6 Nintendo DS systems during its life. Like I don't have a 4K TV. I don't have any plans to upgrade to a 4K TV. So like that part of it is not exciting to me, but like, will I buy this? Yeah, like I totally will, even though I guess for the bigger screen, I mean, honestly, just to have like the newest one, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if it is processing like more snappily, you and I both have the original models of the Switch, so
Right.
like that improved battery performance will be a plus for us at that point. But also like if they're just making like little changes to stuff, if like the wireless receiver in it is better, so
that is
like,
totally true. That's totally true.
For online play better, that would be huge. If there's Bluetooth for headphones, like all of the normal stuff that we've complained about.
I feel like you are listing the stuff that we mentioned in the episode we did 1,000,000 years ago when Switch revision rumors first started.
I am. That's exactly what
like
I'm doing.
I think it was legitimately probably in 2019 that we recorded an episode that was like, what do we want in the Switch revision? And you're totally right. It is that stuff. It's better Wi-Fi. It is like Bluetooth for your headset, like all that kind of things. Totally. Those quality of life upgrades would totally be worth it.
Yeah. And I think then they'll have no problem selling this no matter what. But if they can like actually tout it as like, this is this is the Switch, but like the modern version of it with like the things that should have been in the box to begin with.
But they'll never do that, and that's the part
No,
where
I
it's
know, I
like,
know.
again, I keep going back to like the new 3DS, where like yes, there was like the little like thumbstick thing, and yeah, it did. I guess what I should say is I think that is the one part that gives me pause when I say this won't have exclusive games, because if it doesn't have an exclusive game, like otherwise, like how do you market it? Because when they revised the Switch previously, they didn't market it. It was just like if you bought a new one, then it just had like a better battery and all that kind of stuff. But they didn't say a word about it. But if you're introducing all new hardware, if you're not focusing on the tech specs, which doesn't seem very Nintendo to me, then what
Yeah.
is the marketing hook?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good point. Like, yeah, how do you sell it? And I guess like if you're just going to rely on the thing to sell itself, then why change it?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's already selling itself. I was just right now trying to look to see if there were anywhere that has like sales numbers for Xenoblade Chronicles on the 3DS. And I don't see anything. I would be surprised if that game sold. I mean, like, how well could it possibly sell?
Oh no,
Right?
I think you're right. Like I don't think the exclusive I don't think the exclusive game gambit is very good for them.
Yeah.
Um I almost wonder if like third parties would be the ones to take advantage of it most, where it's like,
Oh, sure.
oh, like we're it's easier for us to bring over like this game, and so it's only like new Nintendo Switch compatible because
Right.
it's the only thing that can run it. Like, but I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. So I found a source that I don't know how well I can trust. It's the um what am I on? I'm on the video game sales fandom wiki that has the sales numbers for all of the Xenoblade Chronicles games. And like they all sell prior to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on Switch, all sell less than 1 million. But like the original Xenoblade sold 0.92 million. Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U sold 0.84 million, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, which is the one that's exclusive to new 3DS, sold 0.56 million, so a little over 500,000, which is like it's a lot of games, but it's less than the version that came out on the Wii U. So like as far as install bases are concerned, like that's not that's not great.
Also, do they have a source for their info? Because I'm skeptical.
I mean, there are sources here. Hold on, yeah, hold on. We can do this. We can trace the sources all the way back, Mark. We have the technology. Ugh, we have the technology, but it's slow. Let's move on.
Well, last Thursday's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate video, hosted by Masahiro Sakurai, went into detail about how the new characters of Pyra and Mythra play. Sakurai hosted this video from his home again, and it is, of course, absolutely charming. Also, the new character was released later that day, and Patrick, you had said that you were playing a little bit of it. So, do you want to talk about your experience with Pyra / Mythra?
Yeah, I'm well, and also just my experience of watching this video. Masahiro Sakurai is a treasure. And like it's just so nice to watch him do what he does. At some point at the beginning of the video, he's like, "I'm back in my home, so there's no one here to laugh at my jokes." And you're just like, "Oh man, I love this guy. I love him so much." And his like passion and enthusiasm for the game and like pointing out, when she attacks this way, this happened, and like when you switch
Totally.
between the characters, like made me really want to like get into it and dig down into it. So I've been playing a little bit this weekend and today, and like she's they're a fun set of characters to play. Like the difference between the two different characters is there's like so similar, but like different enough that like it is like totally evident which one you are controlling. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes with stance characters, which is what it's called in a fighting game when you have like two different modes that you can switch between. Like I don't there's not always like a visual or like movement based difference that I can like easily detect between the two of them. Um, but it's really obvious here. And like I found myself like actually switching between the two characters uh, based on what was happening in the fight, and like that's something that I've never been able to do with the stance character. I'm always like, no, I'm just gonna stick it out with this one. Um, so yeah, I think they did a really nice job with the character, and I was having a fun time playing Smash Brothers this weekend.
You're so right about his like enthusiasm, and um it's obvious, I feel like, that he is so enthusiastic, and not just about these characters but about video games, because like he does not it the more he talks about it, and he's like mentioned it a little bit in like other on podcasts he's done in Japan and in his writing about it and stuff, like really has absolutely no control over who these DLC characters are. Like they are just dictated to him. And so the love and like care that goes into the characters and his like knowledge of the characters, like that attention to
Yeah.
detail feels very genuine. And so even though like I stop watching the videos when he gets into like the minutia of the characters, because it is like their moveset and stuff, just because it's way over my head and not something that I watch these videos for. But it is like when these characters were announced, or when this character was announced, I was like, oh, interesting, and then like moved on.
Yeah.
But listening to him talk about it, the enthusiasm he has for it made me more enthusiastic for the choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it seems like a good, cool, just like all of the characters that they've added, that like it is a when you are playing as this character, it is like a different approach to the game. You have to think about different things. You have different resources that none of the other characters do. Um, and yeah, it's just it's cool to see him like kind of break that down and be like, here's how we broke the game this time.
Also, as part of the latest update to the game, there are some new Mii Fighter costumes, of course, at the regular 75 cents each. All of these are for the Sword Fighter Mii type. It's Capcom related, mostly Monster Hunter. There's a Rathalos gear for Monster Hunter.
Rathalos. Yeah.
Rathalos. Is this just feline? I didn't watch this part of the video.
I think it's just feline. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I mean they're speaking Japanese, so
The feline hat from Monster Hunter. Arthur helm and armor. So Arthur is the character from Ghosts and Goblins, and the hunter's costume from Monster Hunter. And then Patrick, you note here that not in the video, but as part of the update, there are special spirits as part of the new update. If you have Persona 5 Strikers, there's a Sophia spirit, and if you purchased Ghost and Goblins Resurrection, there is Arthur spirit from the save data on your Switch.
Yeah, which is cool. Both of them will also just be available to all players later at a later date. So you're not actually getting locked out by not having those games, but a neat little thing to have access to early. There was one point in this video where Sakurai showed off he has like little figurine statues of Pyra and Mythra. And he's like, we have these because sometimes it's helpful for modeling, and you can be like, oh, what's the bottom of their shoe supposed to look like? An actual example that he used. And then he said that he teased that he has figures for unannounced characters locked in a drawer in his desk in the office, which is a very funny, like, he knows what he's doing, right?
Totally. Also,
teasing us with that information we want.
Also, they didn't announce like amiibo. I assume that they are coming at some point, but no amiibo, right?
I mean, yeah, all the other DLC characters have had amiibo at least announced, but Pyra and Mythra. Although, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if any of the characters from the new set, like the Minecraft Steve or Sephiroth, I don't know if we've seen those amiibo
Oh,
yet.
yeah, I think you're right.
Or Min Min. Although maybe we have seen Min Min.
I can't remember.
I cannot remember. But they've done every other character so far. So I mean I think they have to. Did you were you paying attention to the bit where he was like we at one point thought about having Rex fighting alongside. Rex is the protagonist of Xenoblade 2,
yeah,
fighting alongside Pyra or Mythra. And they're like, because we do 2 characters with the ice climbers, and then he's like, but look at the difference in the level of detail between these characters. And just like had them on screen at the same time, and it is really funny to see Popo and Nana next to Mythra and Pyra. Be like, oh yeah, no, I get it.
Capcom held a Monster Hunter event yesterday, Monday, March 8th, revealing news and information about the upcoming Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin, which we haven't heard anything about since the announcement.
Yeah, and actually that's something that I meant to look into. Did we know that its subtitle was Wings of Ruin, or is that
No,
also,
I don't
was that
think so.
also
I
news?
think that is brand new. So yeah, so Monster Hunter Stories 2 is called Wings of Ruin and is going to be released on July 9th. There was a story trailer with like nice art, really pretty world. Apparently the protagonist from the previous game appears here in a supporting role. You have a pet Raisewing Wraitha. It's some kind of harbinger of doom, as pets, of course, often are.
Well, no, it's cool. Like the story trailer here is sort of like hinting at the idea that you're entrusted with like this egg,
Yeah.
and there's like a terrifying dragon inside who is also your best friend. I'm not sure. And that they're like, well, that thing's going to destroy the world, and you're like, okay, well, I love it. So, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, so my understanding, I didn't play the first Monster Hunter Stories on 3DS, but my understanding is that it's more like a Pokemon-esque take. So instead of like, like trying to murder the monsters to like loot their flesh, you are just like gathering them and friends with them. And so I
Right.
think this game looks super cute. I think it looks really fun. And here they
Yes.
announced. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just the super appealing art style. Like I really like the cartoonier look that they have for this over other releases, and even compared to Rise.
Yeah, absolutely. And for this, there were new amiibo announced, which I was actually kind of surprised by. There's Ina, who's your father's friend, the Raisewing Wraitha, which is the partner Rathalos, and then Suniko, which is a Palico.
When the Palico's that little like helper cat thing.
And apparently, if you have Monster Hunter Rise save data, you'll get some alternate costumes or armor sets from that game that you'll be able to use in stories. And then, of course, the main, or I guess not necessarily the main topic, but really we're less than 20 days away now from release. Monster Hunter Rise is coming out on March 26th. They showed a new trailer, which is way more focused on the monster fighting. And then also,
Yeah, and Mark, I know we've talked before about how like I know Monster Hunter isn't like a series for me. It's not like the characters move too slow. God help me, this trailer made the game look fun.
yeah, oh, totally. Oh, completely. Like, I think Monster Hunter always looks amazing. Like that's never the problem for me. But yeah, it did look really fun. They also showed off a new mode called the Rampage, where you set up turrets and other traps to stop the monsters from destroying the village. There's separate quest lines for single and multiplayer quests. There is multiplayer in the game. And they're releasing a second demo on March 11th with a new expert level mission, and it resets your number of tries if you use them all up, which I'm not sure what that
Yeah,
means.
so I can explain that. So the second demo, this is the second time that they're releasing the second demo.
Oh, got it.
The first time they released the second demo, there was like a clock of how many times you could restart missions, and then when that was up, your time with it was over. So they are re-releasing that on the 11th, and resetting the timer. So if you had already used up all of your tries, you can try it again. And then there's a new like expert level monster hunting mission in there too, if you really want to get into it before the game comes out.
Yeah, and even before the game is released, they're already queuing up like this idea that, hey, we're going to be supporting it and with free updates over time. And so here's the first free updates. They announced that one is coming at the end of April. The first one will be at the end of April with Chameleos taking a shot there.
I think you nailed it.
And other new monsters and other updates at a later time. So really like letting you know that this is a game that's going to be supported for the long haul.
Yeah, which is cool. It's a little strange to me that the game is coming out at the end of March, and they're like, "Yep, free updates at the end of April." Where it's like, what? That's so soon. That's so close to the game actually being released. Um, I don't know. It feels like a weird update strategy where it's like, well, why isn't that just part of the? I guess it's free no matter what. So like, I don't know. It just makes me question like, why isn't that just part of the game?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's just like I wonder if the cadence for other updates will be quick as well. So,
Yeah,
like it won't be one in April and then you wait a long time. It'll be like one in April and then one just like a few weeks later. So, yeah,
yeah,
that'll be interesting
yeah.
to
We'll
see.
see.
The 35th anniversary of the release of the original Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo was entertainment system.
There you
As
go.
a kid, I was just called it the Nintendo, but it was in fact the Nintendo Entertainment System. Was at the end of February, but it passed without much mention from Nintendo. Over Adventure Beat, Jeff Grubb wrote an article where he was saying that Nintendo is holding back its plans for Zelda's 35th anniversary until later in the year to give some room between it and Mario's 35th anniversary celebration. So kind of like focusing on Skyward Sword HD first and then reveal more like Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD coming to Switch as well. In the article he says, quote, "The idea is to create key moments that Nintendo fans won't want to miss out on." And I speculated in a earlier episode when we were talking about Zelda's 35th anniversary that Nintendo wasn't going to do anything for it. Like it wasn't going to be like a marketing thing like
Yeah, a
Mario's
beat for
35th
them. Yeah.
because they wouldn't want to be like repeating themselves. And I still think that that's true. I think it's going to look very different than Mario's 35th did.
Yeah, I think that too. I don't. It was strange to me to see people upset about like Nintendo didn't even tweet anything on Zelda, and it's like, who can what do you get out of them being like happy anniversary to Zelda? Like,
Well,
what does that give you? It's
and
stupid. And then
you know
beyond
all
that,
the
the 30,
replies, all the replies to the tweet
yeah,
would be so like angry and bitter, like just a
right,
tweet.
yeah, just a tweet or like Breath of the Wild 2 when like it doesn't like why even bother? And also like I mentioned this in a previous episode, but like 35th anniversary, like what is that? That's not anything. Like we did it for Mario, so like I guess now we have to do it for everything. 30, yes. 40, yes. 25, sure. But like 35? No way. What are we doing?
Yeah.
We can't celebrate every anniversary.
Let's see. 35th anniversary. I was trying to figure out what the gift for 35
what
years
the gift is?
is coal. Oh, wait. Yeah. Traditionally it's coal. If
Right,
you want to
good.
opt for the modern gift, it's the gemstone jade. So maybe there are clues to what Nintendo's going to do for Zelda's 35th.
Ooh, the
Hidden in
Jade
coal or
anniversary.
jade. Yeah.
Also just the with the mention here from VentureBeat of like re-releasing the Wind Waker HD or Twilight Princess HD. There's no way we will hear about that until after Skyward Sword is released.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Like
I
no
totally
way.
think I totally think you're right. And that's what Jeff Grubb says in the article is just like for Zelda, all the focus is going to be on Skyward Sword, having people excited for Skyward Sword, and then
Yeah.
after Skyward Sword is out, then like we'll hear some of the other stuff.
I mean, like honestly, the Tuesday after it comes out, we'll find out about a direct on Wednesday. Like you can take that to the bank.
Nintendo of Japan has announced that they will no longer be offering repairs for Nintendo 3DS or 3DS XL systems because they have run out of spare parts.
No more parts.
Originally, they had hoped to make it through the end of March, but they had to call it quits early. And this is the original model, right? Not the new 3DS and new 3DS XL.
I believe so, but it may also extend to the new as well.
Okay, got it. Man, end of an era.
Yeah, a sign of the times. I was looking for, and maybe you have it actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was looking for my extra new 3DS XL. Do you have that?
I don't have that.
I think I must have let someone borrow it. Now I don't know where it is.
Yeah, the only 3DS that I have in my possession is my original 3DS XL from the year of Luigi.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
I know
That's
it
right.
well.
Yeah. And finally, Universal Studio Japan's Super Nintendo World is going to open soon. The park, which was originally going to open earlier this year, and of course was originally going to open last year, will now
Right.
open its doors on Thursday, March 18th. So not very long at all. Only 3 days after our contest for Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore ends. So really just around the corner.
Yeah, and they are events of equal weight in the Nintendo world, right?
Absolutely. Meanwhile, the Universal Epic Universe theme park that is planned for Orlando, which is presumably the future home of Mario themed attractions in Orlando, has been pushed to sometime after 2024. The original projected date was 2023, and they were just ready to start full steam ahead on construction last year. But of course, the pandemic halted that. And so now that's been delayed a little bit. But don't forget that Super Nintendo World is currently under construction at Universal Studios Hollywood right now. No opening date has been announced, but presumably, I would guess next year. So, Patrick, our wait may not be that long.
Right, because I mean, if we're going to one of these things, we're going to the one in Hollywood, right? Like,
well, I mean, I still think a good goal for us as friends would be to go to Japan. But I do think that Universal Studios Hollywood is definitely attainable.
yeah, I mean, Universal Studios Hollywood is like a day trip for us. Like, that's although going to any amusement park at this point feels like bizarre fantasy. But yeah,
totally.
I mean, we'll get there. Yeah, no, that's very exciting that the park it still may not be a totally responsible time to go or a thing to do, but it is cool that it's opening up.
Well, and I think the situation is different in Japan than it is here. But I also think
Masahiro Sakurai is still recording Smash videos from home,
true.
Mark.
That's true.
Although he records those way in advance.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I think it's funny that, like previously when they announced opening dates for Super Nintendo World, because Super Nintendo World has been operating essentially since like it soft opened a few months ago. But I think it's funny that previously they were like announcing dates that were like 8 weeks in advance. They, it was like this big like thing where it's coming. And now it's like, do you know what? Just like 10 days from now, like we're just going to do it.
Like, let's do it. Let's just do it.
Like if we don't do it now, we will never be able to do it. So let's just cut the ribbon on this baby.
I mean, it's tough because whether it's open to the public or not, they have to keep the fences on, otherwise the Yoshis get out. So,
yeah,
they're spending a lot of money on that as it is. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter or however you share stuff with people you trust and who trust you. We appreciate it when you do that. It helps the show get into other ears. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. And the show is at Nincart Society. You can also check out the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying that dog strapped to your chest on the zip line, he's the harbinger of doom. And thank you for listening.
Ever wanted to hear from the neighbor at 9 Cloverfield Lane? Or what if I told you that Dr. Loomis's worst patient wasn't Michael Myers? I'm Adam Peacock, host of the podcast My Neighbors Are Dead. Join me each week as I talk to the lesser-known characters from your favorite horror films. Each week is an all-new, fully improvised journey into the unknown, featuring friends and luminaries from the worlds of comedy, horror, and beyond. New episodes every Tuesday on Campfire Media. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.
Campfire.